al giorno a realizzare lavori artistici per la sua famiglia e per familiari degli altri detenuti, trovando modi per far uscire di nascosto questi disegni attraverso i visitatori. Poi così Al-Aziz e alcuni amici hanno organizzato una mostra con le opere realizzate in carcere. Per quanto riguarda Wadir, ha menzionato una pratica nota tra i palestinesi, cioè la lettere in capsule. È una pratica comune nelle prigioni israeliane, dove i detenuti inviano piccoli messaggi o lettere alle proprie famiglie attraverso i visitatori, in cui si piega la lettera e si mette in un contenitore di plastica e il visitatore la ingoia. Una volta tornato a casa la lettera viene recuperata e consegnata alla famiglia. Wadir ha raccontato che quando nacque suo padre era in prigione. Dunque nel momento di scegliere il nome Wadir lo ha fatto attraverso una lettera capsula inviata dal padre. Queste storie rispecchiano le vicende palestinesi e mostrano come i prigionieri cercano di mantenere un legame con la famiglia.
So the Israeli in general steal Palestinian lands to build either illegal settlements or to take it to build when they built the apartheid separation wall, which does not only invade the Palestinian freedom of movement, but made all Palestinians live in what we can explain as a big open-air prison. And also, a lot of time is already wasted through the checkpoints that they need to cross every day in order to go from one place to another. The painting here represents this. The artist Yazan Abu Salame experienced here how the cement is used in architecture in general, and how the place is keeping changing because there is a new building are being built in contradict with the traditional way of the architecture of the place. And all of that is happening because what left to the Palestinians after the Israeli stealing the land is very, very limited. So people need to build within these very limited places something that does not belong to the place, and it's basically cement. The painter here also reflects on how Lego represents the temporary nature of these buildings, and he hoped by that the place can be rebuilt and reconstructed when the Legos is out of the scene, especially in the case of the separation wall.
Un tema ricorrente, comune a tutti gli artisti, riguarda le pratiche dell'occupazione israeliana che elevano l'essenza dei palestinesi, includendo la loro vita, il paesaggio, l'immagine, il tempo e la realtà, o l'identità. Un esempio è il furto del tempo e del luogo. Gli israeliani stanno sottraendo terre e quartieri palestinesi per costruire insediamenti illegali o il muro dell'apartheid, il che non solo limita la libertà di movimento, ma costringe i palestinesi a vivere in una grande prigione a cielo aperto. Inoltre ruba il loro tempo consumato ai posti di blocco o di checkpoint. Yazan Abu Salame nel suo lavoro sperimenta e analizza l'uso del cemento nell'architettura, mostrando come l'ambiente sta cambiando. Gli edifici di nuova costruzione sono diversi dai luoghi tradizionali a causa della mancanza di terre ancora disponibili per i palestinesi sottratte dagli israeliani. Il quadro riflette anche su come i mattoncini Lego possono rappresentare la natura temporanea di questi edifici, nonché la speranza di poter ricostruire il luogo come si fa con il Lego, soprattutto considerando il muro di separazione.
Okay, also the Israelis invade the intimacy or the intimate places of the Palestinian. We can see clearly this in the painting to the left, if you can see it, the one to the left. It's a painting by the artist Afia Nawasra from her project Blankets, which the artist made after the genocide on Gaza since 2023. So the painting talks about one of the most beautiful memory that the artist have from her childhood, from the bedding closet. We call it in Arabic matwa. I don't know how to say it in English, but we can say like bedding closet, which represent warmth and happiness for Afia. For example, she used to play with her cousin in that closet. Her grandmother used to hide all the precious things like the sweets, the money, the nice gift in the closet. And for Afia, that always represents a happy memory. But because it was like the source of all the happy, joyful causes of joy for Afia as a child. But unfortunately, after the genocide on Gaza, the bedding closet turned to or linked to a very harsh memory because Afia witnessed the martyrs whipped with the blanket because there was a lack of shorts during the genocide. So the martyrs were covered by blankets, and she witnessed a scene where the blankets were on the top of each other, which in somehow haunt her and remind her with the closet, the bedding closet. So her beautiful memory of childhood now always reminds her with something very rough and very harsh of the picture of the martyrs.
Anche lo spazio intimo dei palestinesi è stato violato dagli israeliani. Lo si vede chiaramente in un quadro di Afia Nawasra del progetto Coperte, rialzato dopo il genocidio a Gaza iniziato nell'ottobre 2023. L'opera richiama uno dei suoi ricordi più belli legati all'armadio della biancheria o al matwa, che per lei simboleggiava il calore e il luogo dove giocava con i cugini, dove la nonna vi custodiva i dolci, denaro, regali di valore e tutto ciò che portava la gioia per lei. Purtroppo l'armadio della biancheria si è trasformato in un ricordo brutto o collegato alle immagini dei corpi dei martiri di Gaza, avvolti nelle coperte anziché nei sodari a causa dell'esaurimento dei sodari disponibili durante il genocidio. La vista delle coperte ammucchiate l'ha perseguitata come se fossero corpi uno sopra l'altro. Aspetta.
Okay. Within the same slide, we see the other painting for Afia Nawasra, which also here. Maybe here we can see it more clearly. So in this project, Afia also pointed out how the Israeli occupation is stalling the ritual associated to the sanctity of the martyrs. Because Afia, in order to do this project, she conducted a series of interviews with the mothers of martyrs from Hebron city, their sons' bodies are stolen by the Israelis and put in a morgue. Morgue is like the fridge for the dead people. So, and the families do not know in which morgue or where exactly the bodies of their children is. So this painting is for a blanket for a mother who her child is in a morgue, and since she heard of that, she is not able to touch her fridge. Like she cannot open her fridge, her home fridge. She cannot take anything like chicken, meat, anything. She cannot touch anything of the fridge because it's always represented or linked to the fact that her son body is frozen. So Afia here tried to draw the blanket of her son, and in which she was trying to, let's say, to draw the source of warmth that can cover the mother body, and it's kind of like contrast or a resolution or a resistance to the fact that her son is punished by coldness of the morn. So here the artist, she rebuilt and reshaped the realities and bring warmness to that cold scene.
Nello stesso progetto Afia Nostra sottolinea come l'occupazione abbia stravolto i rituali legati alla sacralità del martiro e della morte in Palestina. Ha concepito il suo lavoro come dopo una serie di interviste alle madri dei martiri di Hebron, i cui figli sono stati trattenuti dopo la morte. I corpi erano conservati nell'obitorio israeliano e le famiglie non sapevano dove si trovassero. Nostra ha disegnato la coperta di questi martiri, come descritta dalle madri, a testimonianza dell'assenza dei corpi dei martiri dalla scena palestinese. Nel dipinto la coperta ritrae un martire la cui madre non tocca più nulla nel proprio frigorifero, perché la ricorda il figlio e il suo corpo custodito nell'obitorio israeliano. Afia ha cercato di rappresentare l'origine del calore che avvolge la madre in contrasto col gelo dell'obitorio.
Another theme we witnessed in our study was the theme of freedom. Naturally, any population living under an oppressive system of apartheid will have freedom at the forefront of their speech. And this was the case of the interviews, either as the lack of freedom or the seeking of freedom.
Un altro tema emerso dallo studio riguarda la libertà. È naturale che in una popolazione soggetta a un sistema di apartheid e di oppressione come i palestinesi, il discorso della libertà, che sia la mancanza di libertà o il suo desiderio, stia al centro delle narrazioni.
The artists mentioned being deprived of traveling or having to wait for hours on checkpoints on a trip that would otherwise take maybe 30 minutes. It would take 3 or 4 hours on the checkpoints. And they describe this as a limitation to their freedom of movement. This painting we see by Mahmoud Hamid, which is also behind you. He drew it after he was denied to travel to attend his cousin's wedding by the Israeli military law. So he wasn't able to attend, and thus he expressed his lack of freedom of movement through this painting. Moreover, freedom of speech was also threatened. We witnessed in our interviews the artists not being able to express or tell their full stories because they were scared of the consequences. Now, on a more positive note, the artists expressed that in response to the constant oppression, a lot of them resorted to using their imagination to cross these borders that are imposed on them. They used their imagination either to redraw or reimagine the place based on the collective memory of how their grandparents and parents have told them about the place, or even to imagine what's behind the wall or what are the stolen lands, what do they look like.
Gli artisti hanno parlato di come vengono privati della possibilità di viaggiare o costretti a lunghi tempi di attesa ai checkpoint militari limitando la loro libertà di movimento. In un quadro di Mahmoud Hamed, ad esempio, dopo che gli è stato impedito di viaggiare per partecipare a un matrimonio di un cugino, nonostante si fosse preparato all'idea di vedere la famiglia, l'artista ha ritratto la frustrazione di tale impedimento. Inoltre la libertà di parola è minacciata. Abbiamo riscontrato episodi di autocensura durante le interviste che gli artisti non potevano raccontare raccontare appieno le loro vicende per timore di ripercussioni. Alla fine, di fronte all'oppressione dei diritti e delle libertà basilari, molti di loro hanno fatto ricorso all'immaginazione per oltrepassare i confini, almeno mentalmente, e per contrastare i limiti fisici di un sistema repressivo. Gli artisti descrivono come usano l'immaginazione per rappresentare terre a cui non possono accedere, un richiamo della memoria collettiva trasmessa loro o un tentativo di figurarsi le terre rubate e ciò che si trova oltre il muro di separazione.
The next theme we spotted is the relationship of the artists to the land or to the place. We spotted some interesting patterns between the artists. There was a difference in the level of the material connection to the land based on the place where they were born. So either in refugee camps, either in villages or cities. For the artists that were born in refugee camps, Palestine seemed to occur in their speech as a concept, or not in its material form. Also, what was noted is the nostalgia in their speech when they spoke about their villages or cities of origin, which they have never been to because they live in refugee camps. But of course, they've heard stories from also the older generations. One artist mentioned a quote that stuck with us is that the refugee camp is just a waiting station. The goal is always the village. For the people who were born in villages, the attachment and the belonging to the place was more apparent in their description and more of the material description. So they described the physical dimensions of the place, and they all mentioned the changes that are happening in the landscape around them. Moreover, for the people who are born in cities, there was also a more material awareness of the place. Urban places, they named cities and the natural scenery.
Abbiamo anche individuato un aspetto interessante, il diverso grado di connessione materiale alla terra a seconda che gli artisti siano cresciuti in città, villaggio o in campi profughi. Per gli artisti nati e cresciuti nei campi profughi, la Palestina è percepita in modo concettuale, più come un'ideologia più che una realtà fisica. È emersa la nostalgia nei racconti delle città e dei villaggi di origine, che non ci sono mai stati, ma ne hanno sentito parlare solo dai genitori e dai nonni. Uno di loro ha descritto il campo profughi come una stazione di attesa, il cui traguardo è tornare al villaggio. Per coloro invece che provengono dai piccoli villaggi, l'attaccamento e il senso di appartenenza alla terra si notano chiaramente nella descrizione fisica dei luoghi e nei riferimenti ai nomi. Erano consapevoli dei cambiamenti dell'aspetto del villaggio e li raccontavano nei dettagli. Gli artisti cresciuti in città invece mostravano una coscienza materiale del posto, descrivendo elementi urbanistici, nomi di città e paesaggi naturali.
We can see the changes in the place very vividly in Yazan Abu Salam's work, which he tries to represent the changes that are happening in the architectural scene, but also criticizes it. He mentioned in the interviews how the imperial architectural style is taking over the local architecture and how this is changing the identity of the place and also the experience of the place.
Nelle opere di Yazan Abu Salame si scorge una rappresentazione chiara ma anche una critica dei mutamenti architettonici che la sua città ha subito dai tempi dell'infanzia ad oggi. Nelle interviste Yazan ha parlato di come lo stile architettonico d'impronta imperiale stia invadendo l'autentica architettura locale, alterando l'identità e l'esperienza del luogo.
For Reem al-Masri, she always had an imagined place of Jerusalem in her mind. Since she was a child, she always tried to draw Jerusalem, which is Al-Quds in Arabic, and always imagined what's behind the separation wall. She finally got to cross the border, but cancer was her only chance of doing so. She got cancer and she had to get treated in Jerusalem, and that's how she crossed the border. Two things were noted in her experience. One is that she had to get her treatment alone because her family wasn't permitted to enter with her by the Israeli military law. And she was too tired to explore the city, which opposes her childhood wishes of seeing Jerusalem. But this didn't stop the Israeli occupation forces from making her wait on checkpoints for hours, even after getting her chemotherapy treatment. The second thing she noted was that the reality of Jerusalem was very different than the imagined place she had in mind. Based on the stories from the older generations and based on her imagination, the reality was very different. After her chemotherapy, Reem wasn't able to use the oil in her painting, so she started using a new method, which we see in this painting, which is the collage method. This painting, alongside her other paintings, was an attempt by Reem to imagine the place in a new way. She found a way to continue working on her art and to reconstruct the place piece by piece, as after her frustration from seeing the place change very drastically.
Per Reem, la Gerusalemme, Al-Quds immaginata, è sempre stata un soggetto ricorrente nei suoi disegni e pensieri. Fin da bambina si chiedeva cosa ci fosse oltre il muro, figurandosi la città secondo i racconti delle generazioni più anziane. Alla fine è riuscita a varcare quel confine, ma solo perché aveva il cancro e ha dovuto curarsi a Gerusalemme. Ha raccontato due aspetti importanti del suo viaggio. Ha dovuto affrontare le cure da sola perché alla famiglia non era consentito accompagnarla. Inoltre, dopo la chemioterapia era troppo stanca per esplorare la città. È importante anche notare che spesso doveva attendere ore ai checkpoint militari anche dopo la chemioterapia. Ha scoperto anche che la Gerusalemme reale era molto diversa da quella immaginata. Questo le ha mostrato come il luogo fosse cambiato e come la nostalgia delle persone più anziane non corrispondesse alla realtà attuale. A causa della terapia, Reem non è più riuscita a usare i colori a olio, così ha iniziato a sperimentare con la tecnica del collage, visibile nelle opere qui. Questo progetto è stato per lei un modo di immaginare Gerusalemme in una nuova prospettiva. Ha trovato un metodo per continuare a fare arte, ma anche rimmaginare la città e in qualche modo ricostruirla a modo suo, dopo averne scoperto i cambiamenti.
Okay, so the uniqueness of Palestinian experiences merged as a major theme in this study within all the interviews. And in the next slide, we will explain more how that was represented, but like quick thoughts of what we found is how the identity of the artist was always linked to the fact that they are Palestinian, and how there is attempts of preserving the heritage, the Palestinian heritage, across the generations. So the older generation is always passing the heritage to the younger generation, and also how, and this is very important to mention, that all the experiences we are talking about the experiences of the artist, it's not only individual experiences, but also it met the collective experiences of the other Palestinian. It's a representation of thousands and thousands of Palestinians who are going through the same experiences. So whatever we have mentioned, whatever we will mention till the end of this presentation, it's a representation of what is going on the ground in Palestine. One of the main themes we found, it was related to the family, to the childhood, and also to the trauma, is represented in this painting. So in this painting, the artist Mahmoud Hamid expressed how his childhood was incomplete. So his father was killed by the Israelis when he was 6 years old, and because of that, he had to live incomplete childhood because of the absence of his father. It affected him so much, of course, and his family because his father was not there. And the trauma continued with him even when he was older. So at this painting, he painted incomplete child with a complete shadow to represent how incomplete his childhood was.
È emerso dunque il carattere unico dell'esperienza palestinese, evidenziato da tutte le interviste, nel modo in cui l'identità viene associata all'essere palestinesi e nei tentativi di preservare il patrimonio palestinese di generazione in generazione, e nel modo in cui l'esperienza individuale dell'artista incontra quella collettiva del popolo palestinese. L'artista Mahmoud Hamid racconta un'infanzia incompiuta, suo padre che fu ucciso dagli israeliani quando aveva appena 6 anni, e lui si è ritrovato a vivere un'infanzia segnata da questa assenza. In suo quadro si vede un bambino incompleto con un'ombra incaduta.
Okay, so another example about that, also from the same artist, Mahmoud Hamid, it's here, the painting. So Mahmoud was trying, this painting also talks about his childhood. Mahmoud as a child, he used to see these balloons all over the place in Ramallah. And these balloons used to have the helium material inside in order to make them rising up. And they were a bit out of the family budget. As I mentioned, he was raised by a single mother, so they had very limited budget. And the family could not afford to buy him one of these balloons. So what he decided to make a balloon rising up by himself. So he made so many attempts, he tried everything. He even ran with the balloons, but every time the balloons keep falling because it will not rise up without the helium. So in this painting, he also drew what I could say as a representation of his disappointment, not only as a child in this case, but ongoing disappointments during his life, which was shaped in such a reality.
In un altro lavoro, lo stesso Mahmoud Hamid dipinge un bambino che regge un palloncino che però non riesce a volare. Da piccolo a Ramallah Mahmoud vedeva spesso in strada palloncini ad elio che si innalzavano nell'aria, ma la sua famiglia non aveva i mezzi economici per comprargliene uno. Decise così di provare a costruirlo da sé, senza mai riuscire a fare volare. Quest'opera riflette la sua delusione infantile, non solo nell'episodio specifico, ma come manifestazione simbolica del suo stato emotivo di allora.
Okay. So in this painting also we can see how the Palestinian community is represented. This painting is for the artist Majd Masri, and she told us during the interview how she used to participate in the demonstration while she was a child with her family, and how the community itself used to be very protective and take care of them, like she, her sister, her family, and also how the community used to protect each other. And that inspired her to draw this image, this painting, because she expressed here how it's similar, the Palestinian society with its cohesive and interconnected nature, to the pomegranate seed, that they are very close and interconnected. And that's what inspired her to draw the pomegranate inside this painting. From our point of view, that also represents how the Palestinian society practice a way of collective healing techniques in order to face the collective experience of oppression and the collective trauma that everybody is facing.
L'artista Majd al-Masri ha spiegato che da bambina partecipava con la sua comunità e famiglia a varie manifestazioni e che il sostegno reciproco era allora e rimane tuttora molto forte. Ha paragonato la società palestinese a un seme di melagrano, coeso e interconnesso, ispirandosi a questa immagine per il suo quadro con il melagrano. Lei ha rappresentato la società palestinese in cui significa come una pratica voleva rappresentare la pratica che nella società palestinese di guarigione collettiva al fronte al trauma e dell'oppressione.
The next theme we witnessed in the study was the genocide on Gaza. Now, all the artists mentioned that the ethnic cleansing practices are not new to Palestinians by the Israeli occupation, but that this time this genocide was documented live on TV, all the world was watching, and it was more condensed and harsh. For the impact of this genocide on the artists, three of the artists mentioned that they weren't able to produce any artwork for 3 months after the genocide started. Al-Aziz, the painter of these, the artist of these paintings, mentioned that he started to use the material gauge after the genocide. Now, as a lot of you might know, a lot of the essential medical materials weren't allowed to enter Gaza. And one of these materials was gauge to treat injuries. And this is what inspired Al-Aziz to use this material on canvas to experiment. He went to the pharmacy, he bought a big amount of this material gauge and started to experiment with it. And he made a collection of art using it. So you can see them there. In the painting to the right, he mentioned that this is his representation of refugee camps. He sees them as squares piled next to each other.
Il genocidio a Gaza si è rivelato un argomento chiave nelle interviste condotte con gli artisti. Hanno osservato che, sebbene le pratiche di pulizia etnica operate da Israele non siano nuove per i palestinesi, gli eventi di Gaza sono stati trasmessi in diretta TV sotto gli occhi del mondo intero in modalità più concentrata e brutale. Gli impatti di questo genocidio sugli artisti. 3 di loro hanno riferito di non essere Tre di questi artisti hanno riferito di non essere stati in grado di produrre nulla per 3 mesi dall'inizio del genocidio. Altri invece hanno sentito il bisogno di lavorare intensamente ogni giorno come forma di catarsi. Nelle immagini che seguono vediamo i lavori di Aziz, che ha iniziato a usare la garza dopo il genocidio a Gaza. A causa dell'assedio e dei continui bombardamenti, a Gaza mancavano molti materiali medici essenziali, tra cui proprio la garza. Trovando ironica nella situazione, Al-Aziz ne ha comprate diverse confezioni in farmacia, usandole per creare una serie di opere d'arte. In una di queste lui rappresenta i campi profughi come quadrati ammassati uno accanto all'altro.
Moreover, the genocide also manifested in all of the other artists' work. All of the artists mentioned that they lost the color in their artwork and that they started to focus more on details due to the genocide. They mentioned that they started seeing more value in doodling the small details and documenting the details of the stories of the people. Additionally, a shift in perspective on art in general was noted. A lot of artists mentioned that they rejected the beautification of the scene. As we might know, artists usually try to depict the beauty in life or to express the beauty in life in their artwork. But after the scenes in Gaza, the artists found it counterintuitive and they said that the reality was very harsh and it's not beautiful at all. And so they adapted their work accordingly. Finally, another important thing, a shift that happened in their work was the sense of responsibility that was shared among all of them. First, to document the genocide, but also to preserve the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian collective memory and identity through their artwork, either drawing places or events.
Il genocidio si è riflesso in tutti gli stili artistici. Molti autori hanno smesso di usare i colori, dipingendo esclusivamente in bianco e in nero. Si sono anche concentrati maggiormente sui dettagli all'interno delle opere, piuttosto che su espressioni meramente astratte. Diversi hanno menzionato di dare ora più importanza ai particolari e al disegno minuto. In più c'è stato un mutamento nel modo di concepire l'arte in generale e il suo significato. Alcuni hanno rifiutato l'idea di rendere bello il soggetto, poiché la guerra li ha spinti a confrontarsi con una realtà ben lontana dalla bellezza. Infine, un altro esito del genocidio è stato un forte senso di responsabilità, condiviso da tutti questi artisti, i quali hanno iniziato a vedere nell'arte un mezzo per conservare il panorama e la memoria palestinese, ricreando luoghi e eventi.
We can see the change in the artistic style very vividly in Afia Nawasri's work. Afia had her senior project, as my colleague mentioned, on the human body. She always explored different ways to draw the human body. But after the genocide in Gaza, after seeing images of bodies disappearing, either in ashes or in parts or bodies that weren't recognizable, this transformed her work from drawing images of the bodies to drawing images of the blankets that were covering the bodies, which changed her senior project in a dramatic way.
Osserviamo in modo evidente il cambiamento nello stile di Afia, la cui tesi di laurea era incentrata sul corpo umano, ma dopo il genocidio a Gaza e dopo aver visto le immagini di corpi scomparsi, ridotti in cenere o rimasti solo in frammenti, spesso irriconoscibili, ha trasformato il suo lavoro. Dai ritratti del corpo è passato a rappresentazioni dei corpi coperti da coperte, mutando in modo drastico l'intero progetto di laurea. Notiamo quindi come l'immagine del corpo sia stata a sua volta rubata dall'artista palestinese Afia.
Okay, so in our last theme, we saw how art is used as a multi-purpose tool here. So, for example, art was used as a tool for people to express themselves and their surrounding. the art here also was used to as expression of the reality, how they use it to talk about what they see in the reality, and also it was a tool to reinventing or reshaping the reality in a way to display Palestinian in a victorious scene and a victorious figure. We can see this is obviously in this painting. You can see it's in the back. It's very huge. This painting is for Wadi' Khaled. In the analysis of the birth, name of the painting, the birth, we can see how the artist used techniques in mimic to the stained glass techniques used in the Asian that the Asian Palestinian use normally to document the historical event. Normally nowadays we can see very obvious in the glass of the church in Palestine, and I think it also was exported here. You can see it also in the churches here. It's a way to memorize and mythologize certain events. So what the artist did here, he used immortal icons and combined it with the daily life subjects. For example, we can see the wood stove, if you can see here, and you can see the edge of the stairs, which represent a daily life materials, to mythologizing it with the immemorial icons that it was continuing in the last thousands of years, okay? So what he's trying here to do is he wants to mythologize the daily life of Palestinian in the face of the ethnic cleansing and the erasing of all the Palestinian entity that Israeli is doing on everyday life. If we would like to analyze it even further, we can see that, for example, the painting has different dimension. We can see from the horizontal dimension that normal people, daily people, are interacting with each other, and we also have a vertical dimension where the land is giving birth. So the land here becomes the mother, and it's also a representation or link to the birth of the Christ. Since we have so many dimensions here, maybe also he was referring to the time as the fourth dimension of the play, which even make it more in a mythological way. So what Wadi' is trying to do here, he wanted to build a victory scene for the people to look for it up. Thank you.
L'arte come strumento di espressione di sé. Per gli artisti l'arte è stata un mezzo importante per scoprire se stessi e l'ambiente circostante e per esprimersi davanti a una realtà disastrosa. Reinventare e riscrivere la realtà palestinese è un modo da mostrare il palestinese come figura vittoriosa. In un'analisi del dipinto La nascita, l'artista ha usato una tecnica che imita le vetrate e storiate, le quali venivano utilizzate dagli antichi palestinesi per documentare gli eventi, ad esempio nelle chiese cristiane della Palestina o anche qua. L'artista si è ispirato a queste icone senza tempo per mitizzare la vita quotidiana palestinese e reagire alla pulizia etnica messa in atto da Israele, volta a cancellare l'esistenza palestinese per puro scopo coloniale. Nel quadro si scorgono livelli gerarchici formati da elementi contrastanti, simboli e icone di antiche civiltà. Accanto a elementi quotidiani, per esempio la stufa, a legna o il gradino di una scala, per mitizzare la vita di ogni giorno, intesa come proseguimento di civiltà millenarie. La Terra è vista come un madre capace di generare nuova vita e nuovo sangue. Questi livelli stratificati segnalano una sovrapposizione di mondi, poiché la nascita che sorge dalla Terra è raffigurata su un piano diverso rispetto agli altri elementi, e anche ad indicare la presenza del tempo come dimensione aggiuntiva del dipinto. Whittier cerca di costruire nelle sue opere una scena di vittoria in cui la gente possa riconoscersi e da cui trarre ispirazione.
Article or the full study, we will publish it soon and we will post it on our social media probably. If anyone would like to take our contacts also, you can go ahead and take it. And if you have any questions, also the floor is open for questions, so yeah, let us know about the study or the article.
I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the beginning, but all the artists are they from the same region, like the West Bank?
Yes.
Or okay, the West
The
Bank.
artists are from the West Bank and they all live in the West Bank. None of them lives outside Palestine.
Tutti gli artisti vivono nel Cisgiordania.
And thank you so much for mentioning this, because I think if there will be any future project, we would like to also study artists from Gaza, artists who living in the occupied territory, which was occupied in 1949, and also the refugees who live outside Palestine.
Se avete anche domande in italiano posso tradurre.
Can I ask a question? How was the process of selecting the artists? How do you get in touch with them? Maybe you can let us know a bit.
Okay, so what we did, we took this exhibition as a case study. So we studied the artwork and the artists who participated in this exhibition.
Okay.
But the process of doing the study was actually very emotional. We got very emotional because maybe we mentioned a couple of the stories, but the rest was very intense, and that was the first time in my life that I was so much emotionally involved in a study, honestly. So, yeah.
They were in the, just to add something small, that they were in the form of interviews because you weren't here at the beginning. We described that they were...
Talmente in tanti che siamo usciti.
We're...
Arriva il curatore.
Okay. Yeah, they were like semi-structured interviews. We had questions and we had interviews with the artists. Then we analyzed, we came up with common themes among them. Yeah, and we related it, of course, to the existing literature on the topic.
Domande, no? Any other questions?
In virtù di riflessioni personali.
Yeah,
Non
it
avete
doesn't
nulla da
have to be a
chiedere?
question. Yeah. If
You can just give an opinion or a reflection of what you saw today or...
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Abi,